Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach. Let me pin a comment and then we're going to jump right into it. Tonight, I am doing live hot seat career coaching with someone who has volunteered, a social worker, to come on and get coaching from me. So I'm pinning a comment. That's why you see the top of my head. Drop in the chat a 1 if your day was going good. 2 if it can be better. That way I'm just doing a room check to see how people feeling. And then I'm going to explain what I'm going to be doing tonight, which is live hot seat coaching with someone, a social worker who volunteered. And we're going to be giving her a mini career makeover. So drop in the chat a 1 if your day is going good, 2 if it can be better. I'm pinning a comment, and then I'm gonna bring my special guest on so we can get going. She already told me she has her list of questions and she ready to get coaching, and I'm excited. So if your day is going good, drop a 1 in the chat. If it's going good, a 2 if it can be better. Sometimes people say a 1.5. This is how I always start my coaching calls. So like if you ever work with me offline, I always do a room check to see how people are feeling. Quick housekeeping. Sunday is my live webinar. How you are already qualified to get a macro social work job. It's a live webinar, a 2-hour webinar that I'm doing on Sunday, October 13th, to break down the 5 experiences that every social worker has, regardless of where you work, what type of social work you do, the experience that you already have that can get you a macro job. The tickets are only $25. The link is in the bio and they go off sale on Friday. So let me bring up my guest so we can get going, because she already told me she has a list of questions and I'm ready. So let's see. The wrong person. Hold on a second. Let's see. I'm going to send my request to my person, which is Amber.
Hi.
Hey, I actually brought up the wrong person. You wanted to be my guest?
I guess no
Okay.
problem.
Okay, so we're gonna put parking lot you, and we're gonna go with Amber because
Okay.
she volunteered for me yesterday, and then we'll come back for you.
All right, no problem.
Okay, perfect. I don't know how to get you out. I think it's an X on your
Yeah,
end,
I see it.
right hand corner. Yeah, so this is good. Okay, so Amber, it responded to my email yesterday, and we actually missed each other by a matter of minutes because we were going to go live yesterday, but we're doing it today. And so this is going to be live hot seats career coaching. So I want you to think of it as like a mini career makeover. I don't know what the questions are that Amber is going to ask me, but we're going to do it. And so this is a good opportunity for you all to see like what it's like to receive career coaching. Now keep in mind my career accelerator is a more structured program, but we're gonna do this on the spot. So what's going on, Amber? Introduce yourself to the people. Tell them what type of social work you do and where you are located in the world, city, state, country, whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
Well, hi everyone. My name's Amber. I'm a social worker. I live in Rockville, Maryland, but I work in DC, super close. I work in a really interesting role in social work. So it's in child welfare, but I work with guardian ad litem attorneys that partner with children that enter into the foster care system. And we'll do case consultations with those attorneys to help figure out best interest for the client. Sometimes we'll have conversations with the agency social workers, with the parents therapists, with the child's therapist. So lots of multidisciplinary teaming. It's a really interesting role, like a mix of clinical and there's some like meso community work as well. And I've been doing that for almost 2.5 years.
Okay. I'm taking notes, so when you see me looking down and around, I'm not ignoring you. So what were you doing before that?
Before that, I was doing home visits in early intervention, and I taught out of a curriculum. So mothers that were prenatal through their children being 5 years old would teach them different techniques for how to parent, activities, age appropriate activities that they could use with their children. I also helped connect them to resources in the community, planned events. all types of stuff in that role.
Did you do anything else non-social work related?
Oh, all of my other non-social work stuff was retail work. So lots of customer service in the food industry, in the clothing industry, accessories, things like
All
that.
right. So let me get your first question. What's going on? What's happening
Yes.
in your life?
Okay. So I've really enjoyed my job. I was there as an intern in my MSW program. Um, but I knew it was going to be temporary for me because when I went to get my master's, I knew I wanted to do larger level work, but I didn't know what that looked like. My school didn't really support macro placements. Like they taught us, here's what macro is. Okay, that's the end, kind of a thing. And so I've always struggled. So then I guess I didn't have the opportunity to figure out what exactly do are my interests, which I think led me to do mainly work with children. And so I guess my question is for someone that has kind of been only in a clinical role, has had like the slightest taste of what macro could look like, how do you go about getting started with reshaping your resume and putting a less clinical name to what your experiences were in a job that's been mainly clinical?
Mm, okay. So I'm going to answer your question, but I'm not going to answer your question.
Okay.
It's a process, but I'm going to give you what you need. So before we can figure out a game plan on how to translate your experiences or identify what experience you have to get a macro job, you need clarity on what type of macro level work you want to do. So I have a 3 P's framework. I use it with all my coaching clients. I used it in my career. That's how I landed 5 macro jobs. That's how I've helped over 170 social workers pivot into macro social work. And so I'm just going to give you the quick and dirty version of the 3 P's framework.
Okay.
You first need to be clear about what issue and or population you want your work to center on as a macro social worker. In addition to that, you also need clarity around how you want your day to day work to look. Because my aim when coaching my clients is to help you avoid what you say you love your job. I love that, right? But my goal is to help people avoid the cycle of just getting a job and not liking the job because it's not really what you should be doing. It's not an aligned job. So a wild example is maybe you really enjoy writing. However, you're in a job with heavy public speaking. And you're like, I just want to write. I just want to sit in the office and be to myself, right? You're going to be out of alignment. So you first need clarity around what type of work would you ideally like to be doing on a day-to-day basis. And again, quick, dirty version, how I help my people, because this is a 30 to 45 day process of career clarity, but how I help my people like work, how I can help you today is start by answering the question, what have you done in your work life that you did not enjoy? It's easier for y'all to tell me what you didn't like, right? Rather than what you do enjoy.
Mhm.
Start there, identify that, make that your non-negotiable list, meaning you don't apply or look at any jobs with any pieces of anything that you named on that list. Then from there, I need you to identify one thing, one type of task that you have enjoyed doing. It could have been in your paid work. It could have been in unpaid work. It could have been as a volunteer. It could have been when you were in high school and worked at the local hospital as a candy striper. It could have been in college. It could have been practicum internship. Out of all of the work you've done, there's one type of task that you've done where you're like, I wish I could do more of it, right? It could have been in passing. It could have been a one-off thing. So let me pause there. What are, just because this really is a self-reflective process, so it's going to take you a while, but based off of what you heard me ask, what type of work don't you like to do?
Oh, um, I don't, I generally don't like forward facing work. So, like, kind of like a mix of public speaking, but I think also I like to say being in the trenches with the families. I think I've grown apart from wanting a role like that.
Okay. Anything else?
Um, Writing reports. I think trying to make everything in my head really concise um, can be a challenge sometimes. Like you have a whole bunch of thoughts that you're trying to get out, but you have to make it concise for a very specific reason. I think I'm more free thinking and want to put everything down on the paper um, that I think would be beneficial for a family. So having to minimize that is not fun and like stick to a guideline.
So you're talking about very extensive
Yes.
reports. Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Um, I think that's
Okay.
it.
But remember, this is a process. So over the next couple of weeks, this is what you need to figure out. But we're going to just do it this way for right now. So out of all of the work that you've ever done, was there one type of task that you enjoyed the most?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think when I was doing the home visiting program, outside of, though I didn't really like the being front facing with the clients and kind of being in the trenches, like I said, I really did like educating parents that wanted to do better for themselves and for their children. And I have been trying to find a way to, because that's where I feel like I can get all of my thoughts and my ideas out is, hey, let's just bounce these ideas off of each other. What works for you and how can we make that happen? Um, I think that's the piece that I've been missing.
So with that, was it the topic that you enjoyed or was it the education piece?
I think I would say, mm, I think it's like 60-40, like 60 the education piece and maybe 40% what the topic was.
Okay. Now, the other part of the three P's framework, and we can't get deep in the weeds on that one, is passion. What do you do in your free time? Because when I look at all three together, usually when I look at passion and purpose together, which is how you want your day to day work, what you're doing in your free time is really how you want to be, really what you want to do in your work. So I'm just going to ask this question for the sake of this, our limited time here today. In your free time, are you the go to person that's educating the people around you about different topics?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. So you didn't, now you know how I talk, hopefully.
I
You
do.
enjoy the parents. It wasn't that. It was the education piece.
Mhm.
You enjoy telling people about a subject that you're knowledgeable about. You enjoy them giving them tangible strategies or best ways to implement this information to achieve whatever desirable outcome as a result of the information. Right. So in your passion, like if I took a deep dive, I'm sure I will see where you do that a lot in your personal life. Right.
Okay.
And so with that, to go back to your question about how to tailor your resume and what type, well, in order to tailor your resume, you got to know what type of job you want. So being that you love educating people, um, there's a role on macro level, on like for macro level work that they call technical assistance. On the local level, we call it training and development. But on the macro level, they call it technical assistance. Now, technical assistance is a very standard type of role, right? You'll see that all over the place. Now, if you really want to move into an aligned macro job, you need to get clarity around what population and issue you want your work to center on.
Okay.
Because you get a technical assistance job and the issue that they're working on is the aging population and healthcare access, and that ain't your thing, you're going to have very low job slash career satisfaction.
Hmm.
So the other part of my framework is you need to work to identify what is your population and or issue,
Okay.
right? And so from there, once you identify those things, Again, it's a process. It will take you a while because one day you may be like, oh, yeah, I enjoy blah, blah, blah. And then 3 days later, 2 weeks later, you remember, oh, no, I don't really enjoy that. Right. So it's a process. And so then you take all of that information and then you look at your work experience. First, you have to find organizations that do the work. I'm going to tell you way more than what you asked me because you just asked me about a resume, but I'm giving you the whole blueprint. So you take all of that information and then you find a national organization that aligns with your population and or issue. You look at their job board. You already know the type of work that you want to do is education in nature. So you're going to have to open up the job descriptions and look at them. Again, most likely they will have the verb of technical assistance somewhere in the job description. And that's your indicator that this is education. Right? And so then from there, when tailoring your resume, you need to look at the resume at the job post to see exactly what are they requiring. So if in the job post they're saying we are looking for someone who has experience, and this is like it's a whole lot that go into this, right? Because you got to know who's your target audience and all of the things, but we're gonna skip that part. If they say we're looking for someone who has experience talking to child welfare leaders, then on your resume, you need to highlight experiences where you have talked and engaged in dialogue with child welfare leaders, even if it was just only on a local level. So what that will look like is earlier you said that you were a part of a lot of multidisciplinary meetings. Did I write that down?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So in those meetings, you were in meetings with leaders.
Mhm.
I don't know what y'all been talking about. That's you. Like, what were y'all talking about? Were you talking about case plans? Were you talking about staffing issues? Were you talking about reunification needs? Either way, that is the type of experience you want to put on your resume rather than manage the caseload, conducted parent education, right? So then also in that job post, if they say something around like, we want someone to design and facilitate engaging workshops, webinars, then you could look at your home visit where you said how I wrote it down was you did parent education. So what that looks like is in doing parent education, you had to design some type of workshop, webinar, um, worksheet, something, even if it was for one person, you still designed curriculum, something for them, right? You probably didn't call it curriculum, you called it a workshop, but it's still the same thing. And so what you put on your resume is not that you did peer education workshops, what you put is the experience. What was the process? And this is the part where social workers do not do well. Nobody do it, right? You have to break down the process. What did it take for you to develop that parent education workshop, right? So let's talk through it so the people listening could hear how this works. So what did you have to do to develop one of those parent education workshops? And I'm gonna guide you through the process.
Okay. I'll give a specific age. So I'll say like I'm working with a mother that has a 2-year-old. So if we're talking about the different types of development, we'll say physical development, I would look at what a 2-year-old child would need to have for physical development. What activities, what toys can I bring that would foster that type of development, encourage a parent to get on the ground with their child and engage in that activity. And then we might have like a reflection sheet that we would talk about how did that activity feel for you? Um, do you have any concerns that you're seeing in this interaction? And then I'd give like a homework assignment. This is what I'd like to see the next time that we meet for our visit. And that's kind of generally what that
I
looks like.
love it. Now, the process part is what you miss, right? Which everybody does, it's not just you. You said you look at like what are the developmental milestones for the child. What are you looking at? Are you reading scholarly articles? Are you doing research? Are you looking up a national organization that does work around childhood developmental milestones? How are you gathering this information? What I always tell my people is it did fall out the sky into your brain.
Yeah, I usually would use, so CDC has like a milestone tracker for child development. And then I think it's APA something, I forget the acronym, also has a guideline for child development. So I'll research whatever age range that child fits in, figure out what I need to know, and then word it in a way that a parent would be able to understand it.
Right. So with that, right, it's less about the child development piece and more about the process. So how I interpreted that is that you utilize and research federal databases, resources, tools, and guides to conduct comprehensive needs assessments to determine what type of parent education workshop you need to develop, and then you use the standards that are recommended by the federal government and other like qualified entities.
Okay.
So it's less about the population and issue that you're working with and more about the process, the experience. And I saw you smiling. Why you were smiling?
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, I was working on my resume the other day and I watched one of your podcasts. I was like, take biopsychosocial out of your resume. I was like, well, how the heck am I supposed to write it if I don't put biopsychosocial? So hearing like needs assessment and how does a needs assessment translate across other disciplines? Like people probably know what that is, but they don't know what biopsychosocial is. And then, yeah. So
Now,
it's like I'm connecting some of the dots from your podcast that I've been listening
oh,
to.
you got it from the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lawyers of all kinds know what a needs assessment is. They do it in business. They conduct needs
Mhm.
assessments, right? It may look a little different. They may be doing it for marketing, for the development of a product, but they're still doing needs assessment. So it's all about using plain language, but also detailing the process. And that's what social workers don't do well at all. I don't care who you are, unless you've been working with me. You all do it. And it's because you do what you do so well, and you do it like you're breathing air, that you don't think about what it's taking for you to do the thing. Also, in addition to that, many of you, and I'm not saying this about you, Amber, I'm talking to the people watching and people watching the replay. Many of you are still caught up in the whole I need to be humble, and ain't really accepted the fact that you got to market yourself for the jobs you want, so you don't give yourself proper credit for the work that you're doing. So you skip over the how you did it and you
Mhm.
get right to, oh yeah, this was the outcome, but you got to tell the people how you did.
Okay.
So I'm glad you saying that. So yeah, most definitely. So I love that. Do more of that on your resume. But again, you really need to spend more time on the clarity piece. Because if you just jump into starting applying, you're gonna be like other macro workers out on the street that's in policy jobs and they hate. I get a lot of messages like that behind the scene. Don't be that way. Spend at least the next 3 weeks doing clarity work. And then also I wanted to say, when you said you lived in Maryland, you girl, you in the
I know.
I was all around you, Amber. What you doing? Oh, okay. What other questions do you have?
I was also, I think you might have went live yesterday too, talking a little bit about confidence, and I know you go more into that in your accelerator, but what are some tips that you could share about, I think it's probably a little bit about reflection, but about building that confidence, like in your personal life, but also in your professional life.
Oh, okay. Okay, so let's go with professional first. So to build the confidence, it comes by building your knowledge. So that's where the clarity piece has to be done first. That's the critical first step, because you got to get clarity around what knowledge do you need to build. Because when you shift to macro work, you're no longer required to be the Jack or Jill of everything in the world, right? And macro jobs, they require you to do everything: move the bait, move the furniture, cook the food, and do the case plans and give therapeutic services. And you don't have to do all that. You actually just need to specialize in one thing and be really, really good at that and be really knowledgeable about the thing. So for the confidence, what I know to be true in my own pivot and working with over 170 plus social workers at this point is that the confidence increases by the more knowledge you have about your population and or issue. That's how I use my framework. Right, we got to get clear on what issue in the world do you see that you want to address? What population is that impacting? Also, going even further, who's the target audience? Who is the group that you feel is responsible for fixing this thing or addressing this thing? And so the more professional development you do around that and building your knowledge about it and what it looks like on a national level and what type of work is being done and who are the key actors and what's going on and what are the best practices, things like that, your confidence will build. And I don't know, I'm sure you probably heard me say it, like, that's how I get on the internet and talk about workforce development, like from a different angle, not just from career coaching, because I've studied it so in depth, right? So for you, I would say that you need to get clarity. And then once you get clarity, start studying your thing. And then when it comes to your personal life, where are you struggling with confidence in your personal life, in your personal relationships, or?
No, I think you might have talked about this a little bit too, but sometimes like imposter syndrome, and I don't know. I left school, didn't know what I was doing for a little while. Then I decided I wanted to get my master's in social work. Um, Graduated in 2022, sat to take my test, got a job that I didn't really sit in. Like, did I ever get to explore myself as an individual, or am I just a social worker? And so I have been like trying to have some self-reflection about what does that look like? Who is Amber as a person?
So
So yeah.
I'm smiling because earlier I was just thinking about that. I was scrolling on something on the internet and saw something. And I am not anti-therapy. That's not what I'm saying, what I'm getting ready to say. But I was just, my heart hurts a little bit when people who haven't even lived life yet are helping others navigate through such tough situations when you don't even know yourself yet, because I don't even know me yet. So it's just like, those are the formidable years. You need to be taking that time to focus on. So that's why I was smiling. So with that, I would say that, your desire to pivot to non-front facing roles, like you just said, will help in the personal area. And then like the imposter syndrome, that will be improved the more knowledge you have around your thing. And then just also, how do I say this? Be okay with being the one. I don't know another way to say it. Be okay with being the one. For me, and what I see in a lot of people is you all are superstars and you're afraid to outshine the people in your life. That was me.
Mhm.
Right? So you dim yourself and then you make yourself real small to fit in and make other people feel comfortable. And that should not be the goal, to make other people feel comfortable. Um, so own it. If you like my best friend Sharika, she's like, Marthea, it's like you, and I know this ain't a PC word, but she's like, Marthea, it's like you a nerd, but you cool. Okay with being a nerd now. Before I didn't used to be that way. So if like you are different or you are an introvert, also I couldn't stand being an introvert because I grew up around a bunch of extroverts. Be okay with being you. The more you lean into being authentically you, which was my goal like 2 years ago, the easier everything else gets. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I really want you to be okay with being the one. Because if you're thinking about systems level work, that means that you are set apart, you are outlier, you are different from the norm. You want to challenge the status quo. Be okay with being that. Um, yeah. Did I answer your question?
That did answer my question.
Perfect. Did I answer your question? Did you understand the instructions I gave you about resumes?
I do.
Perfect. Do you have any other questions?
No, that was it.
Okay, Amber, this was fun. Thank you so much for volunteering and
Thank you.
keep me posted.
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy macro career planning. The other person that wanted to come on, you can send me a request if you're still here, and I'll give you some hot seat coaching. I didn't catch your name. Um, is she still here? Uh, I don't even remember what your name was because it popped up so fast. Oh, Laura said, thank you both. You're welcome, Laura. So I don't know if the other person is still here, but the purpose of tonight was to do some hot seat coaching. I didn't have like any talking points pointed out, but like if you have a question, drop it in the comment box or either in the question little bubble in the right hand corner of your phone. I'll answer your questions. If you want to come on and do hot seat coaching, you can. But I say the same thing that I told Amber to you. You have to have clarity. If you want to like shift into an aligned job where you are like, I buy into the mission of this organization, I buy into the work that we're doing, right? And if you really want to build in opportunities to have increased job satisfaction, you have to do the clarity piece. And it's the part that um, really takes the longest because a lot of people have been doing work that they don't really enjoy. You've been doing it out of survival because it was the only job. It was a job that was available. And so it's the first time that you are forced to really sit with yourself and get clarity around what it is that you want to do. So that's why I have an exhaustive framework. I have more questions to guide you through that process. I just took Amber through the quick fire version of it. But on average, it takes my coaching clients about 30 to 45 days. And then from there, that's when I then teach them the tangible strategies of how to find aligned organizations, how to write their resume, how to master interviews, how to career plan. This is how my people go on and get multiple macro jobs. It's because they did the hard, necessary work in the beginning. And so all of their jobs are aligned. One of my coaching clients was just Keyshawn. Every time I see him on LinkedIn and on social media, I'm like, clarity did him good, because before working with me, he had worked in higher ed for a little bit. Then he was on an employee assistance hotline, and then he was doing some unrelated volunteer work. Right, when in the career clarity process and taking him through my framework, he got really clear around the fact that his issue was HBCU access for Black boys, right? And how he wanted that work to look like in his day-to-day role, right? And so he landed 2 macro jobs after coming outside of the accelerator. Every opportunity job that he has gotten after that aligns with being around HBCU access for Black boys, right? So he's no longer all over the place, like y'all hear me say. Like, he's no longer working with employees. He's doing aligned work, and he was being recruited by national organizations. So let's see. Jackie says, what would you advise someone who doesn't have a lot of years of experience but want to pivot into this new role? Do you think you can help international people? So I'll answer your first question when it comes to not have a lot of experience. If you have at least 2 years of experience post MSW degree, you have enough, right? You can't identify it on your own. Even if it's a bachelor's degree. Or let's say that you don't, because I know people follow me from all different professions. Let's say you don't have a bachelor's of social work degree or a master's of social work degree. If you have like social service related experience, at least 2 years of that, you have enough experience. You just don't know how to identify it. That's why I would really encourage you to come to my live webinar on Sunday, where I'm going to be sharing the top 5 experiences that everyone has. If you've ever worked in a social service type agency setting, you have these experiences. And so, oh, you said BSW with 6 to 12 months of experience. Okay. So I would say, Jackie, that you need another at least solid year. And that's just me talking to you in general terms. So how you should get the experience is, are you working or have you done your field practicum? I'll wait. I know it's a little delay. Well, I'm assuming you're out in the field based on how you worded the question from before. So I would say that you should it's process, Jackie. In your current case management job, you should be strategically working on creating a professional brand for yourself, right? And build out opportunities to do that. So I'll give an example. So if your focus, I'm just gonna make up something. If your focus is to do child welfare macro level work, right, and you only have 1 year of relevant experience, let me go with a different example. Or tell me, Jackie, tell me, what's your population and or issue that you're interested in? Let me do it that way. And then while you're doing that, I'll answer your other question. You said, do you think you can help international people? I have coaching clients who have gone through the accelerator who are in Canada. Before I used to say I don't work with people internationally, but I have someone who's in Canada, who I've worked with. Ideally, I would love to like meet with you first to see if I really can help you, because like I always say, all money and good money. And I'm not about just taking people money if I can't help you. I also, like, my wish would be, and this is for other people who are listening in, like if you are entertaining the idea of moving abroad, I would love it if you work with me and we created a solid career plan for you to really conduct a comprehensive assessment of the labor market that you're moving to, so you can make proactive strategic career moves before moving, right? Because different countries have different like hierarchical systems. They have different ways that they operate. And so when you are coming as an outsider from another country to this new country, you are also, in addition to looking to a job, you're learning a new culture. So it's a lot of work that you should be doing before you technically move abroad, right? Because it may be that you may need to be looking at a company or organization here in the U.S. that hires people internationally. Like, there's strategic things that you need to be doing. And so that would be my one request. And then I also just thought about, I have a current coaching client who's in the Dominican Republic, right? Okay. So you said that you have 6 years in disabled care, but you changed into child protective services. Oh, Jackie, you got work history, Jackie. Yeah, you got relevant experience. So what's your question? What would you do if I someone who doesn't have a lot of you have enough? So my advice would be, consider what you did in your past work life. The biggest mistake that social workers make, I did it too, first out of my while in my MSW degree program, was thinking that my past work life was irrelevant to getting a macro social work job. It's not. It's just as relevant. My job, my past work life, when I only had a high school diploma and I was working in call centers and state government, actually helped me get my macro job. It helped me with like my transferable skills, not the experiences, the skills. So for example, one of my state government jobs, I worked as a regulatory analyst with the Department of Health. What that role looked like was I answered calls all day from healthcare professionals, doctors, registered nurses, healthcare facilities, things like that, where I provided them with technical assistance support around licensure in the state of Florida. That's why I knew about social work licensure before even finding out about the field of social work, because that fell under that department that I worked in. And so in that role, all day long, all I did was read Florida law, Florida statute, Florida regulations, and interpret it to healthcare professionals who were looking to get licensure in our state, those who were looking to get reciprocity from another state, right? So I learned how to translate very technical guidance, policies, statutes, laws, and regulations. That's why I'm really, really good at plain language, because it was in those roles that I had to get good at disseminating very technical, complicated information and explaining it to people. That's why I always say I can talk to a medical doctor and I can talk to someone who maybe is a blue collar worker, and they're going to understand what I'm explaining. So for you, I would say the same thing. Your 6 years of experience as a disabled care person, I don't know what the title is still relevant. You need to do the career clarity piece to get clear on what type of macro job you want. So go back and watch the replay where I was giving the quick fire version to Amber. Work through that and then look at your transferable experiences from your work in disabled care. But you have enough experience, Jackie. Jackie said she's interested in working with families. I'm in Europe. Okay. What type of issue? So do the clarity. Do the clarity because you need clarity on what the issue is. So if you do the clarity piece and you realize the issue that I want to help people address is something around like parent education. I'm just making this up. You are the expert, right? So then you look at your experience and then you pull out all of the times where you did parent education work, right? And that's what you highlight on your resume. Let me know if that was helpful, Jackie. Give me a 1 if it was good, a 2 if you need a different example. But clarity is important. Clarity is important if you really want to move into an aligned job. Thanks, Jackie, for asking the question. And I'll wait because I know it's a little delay. Also, this Sunday, October 13th, I'm having a live webinar. It's a 2-hour live webinar because I'm going to be teaching. She's going to be teaching. I'm going to be breaking down. I'm going to be pulling from outside of my paid coaching program, the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. For the first time ever, I'm going to be sharing publicly the transferable experiences that usually only my paid coaching clients have access to. I have an exhaustive list of them. There's well over 30 of them. However, I'm going to be sharing the top 5 transferable experiences that every social worker has, regardless of where you work, regardless of if you're clinical or non-clinical. And me teaching you what these experiences are helps you then understand how you're already qualified to get macro jobs. And that you don't need another degree, you don't need another license, you don't need whatever you think you need. And then in addition to that, you learning this helps you identify where you're doing this work every day in your current job and in your past jobs, right? And then in addition to that, I'm going to teach you about how those experiences, how valuable they are in the job market. I'm going to be doing case study comparisons against actual live job posts to say, you do this as a case manager. This is what this means on this macro job post, right? I'm going to be translating it for you all. And for even some of them, I'm going to have like salary snapshots so you can see how much what you're doing now is worth in a macro job, because it's money to be made. My people making money. I'm gonna just leave it at that. That's why we macro and paid. You can get paid well, right? And so that live webinar is on Sunday, October 13th. I'm also gonna have one of my Micro to Macro Career Accelerator coaching clients. She's the most recent macro career win out of the accelerator. She just started her macro job last week in Washington, D.C. She works remotely with a national organization that works doing value-based care work. And so what time is going to be Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so she's going to be there talking about her experience of unlearning the transferable experiences she has, and how shocked she was that she already had the experience she needed. She actually started a bidding war. She had major corporations and other national organizations wanting to hire her, and she had to turn some down. So she's going to be talking about that whole journey live, and you all will be able to ask her questions. So yeah, 6 to 8 p.m. on Sunday, Eastern Standard Time. You do get access to a replay for 3 days. The tickets are only $25. They go off sale on Friday. So Jackie says, families with children and child protection services, I would like the parents to increase their parenting skills to regain custody. Yeah. So in your past work life, Jackie, if you were doing disabled care, I'm sure at some point you were touching parents, right? Your new work may not be focused on disabled children, but you still were touching parents at some point in those groups of people you were working with. So you focus on your work with the parents, right? Even if it was parents of adult children, they were still parents. So in the disabled care, the same thing like what I was telling Amber earlier. You were designing education workshops and webinars, even if it was for one person. It's an education workshop or webinar. You did it. Even if it was informal. Like I always tell people, even like for me, when my DV days, when I was a transitional housing program coordinator, I would do a lot of one-on-one education workshops with my people in like their weekly meetings. That's a workshop. I had to design that. I had to map out what I was going to talk about. I had to find my tools and resources that I was going to give my participants. Even if it was in passing, it's still a workshop. Remember, give yourself credit for what you did. You're welcome, uniquely. Oh, Jackie says, oh, okay, thank you so much. You're welcome. All right. Families with children and child protection services. I would like the parents to increase their parenting skills to gain back the rights to regain custody of their children. Yeah. You said what kind of macro possibilities are there in this field I'm interested in? That's what you have to do your career clarity work on. You got to research it, right? So it starts with before you start researching, you need clarity on what do you want your day-to-day work to look like. Then once you do the clarity piece, I have a whole strategy, right? It's a process. But then you go out and do searches to find organizations that do that, right? So there are several ways that you can go out and find organizations to see what they are doing. I call it the breadcrumb method. I've had several workshops on job searching in the last several months. I would encourage you to look for me to offer that again, because I can then share with you the strategies. But it's a breadcrumb method. It's not like conduct the Indeed or LinkedIn search. That won't work. Not for macro jobs. It's a process where you have to really use like scholarly research to see who's commissioning the research. You have to then maybe even go and follow your funding stream. How is your organization being paid if your organization is already touching this issue? It's a process. So I encourage you to look for the next time I offer the macro social work job searching workshop. That would be good for you. And it works in any country, Jackie. Because like I said, I have a current person that's in the Dominican Republic and she finds jobs all the time. Actually, there's tons of international macro organizations. All right, so I'm going to end there. Make certain that you purchase your ticket. Thanks for the engagement. Thanks, Amber, for being the guest. Jackie says, but I'm an independent social worker, so I have my own business. I want to do it from a business perspective. Oh, okay, I love that. Yeah, I love that. All right, y'all. Happy macro career planning. Bye.